Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, which means it's my favorite day of the week because I get to hang out with you guys. I'm super, super excited about today because we are diving into something that I have lightly talked about here and there over the past almost 2 years that we've been together, but we really haven't dove deep dived deep, however you say that. We have not gotten as deep as I would like to, and I'm super, super excited to have one of the smartest minds I've ever personally met in this space of profitability today to actually come in and co-host this masterclass with me. So before we do that, I do want to go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping real fast. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We're going to open up this guy real quick. All right, so like I mentioned, we are doing an increasing profitability masterclass today, but I do want to go ahead and hit on a few things for anyone who has been with us over the past couple of weeks. You know that we do this every single Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, but next week are going to actually have another guest. Usually we only have like one guest per month, but I got a lot of people that I want to talk to. So we talked to Martin from Printify twice in 1 month. We have Adam from Pentane today, and we're actually going to have my good friend Jenny from the shop coming in next week on the Coffee with EverBee. So we're actually going to be getting into design and how you can scale your designs in 2026 to get that many more listings faster. And we're also going to be talking a little bit more about profitability today, but also profitability as it relates to design next week. So how you can go a little bit quicker to even save more time when you were trying to get into the design space. Tomorrow also, I wanted to let you guys know, if you are watching today, hopefully you are here this morning live with us, because if you're watching the replay, it might be a little bit too late, but I wanted to let you guys know that tomorrow we are launching our Black Friday VIP list. This is by far the best Black Friday offer that we've ever had. We did one last year and it was pretty huge, but this year our team has just been working so hard behind the scenes, trying to get as many bonuses, as many curated courses for you guys from some of your favorite mentors, including, shameless plug, myself. So make sure you be on the lookout for that. I'll be putting a little bit of information about it in the Facebook group. So if you're not in the Facebook group already, highly recommend joining, because you're going to be the first to know once we launch that VIP list. And then it will obviously go live on, I believe it's the 28th. Let me double check. Yep, so Friday the 28th is our actual Black Friday launch period, but we're going to have a VIP list open for the next couple of days, so you guys can be the first to know when we actually launch the huge special that we're going to be doing. And I'm actually going to give you guys a little bit of a teaser today of one of the bonuses that you could get access to. Last but not least, just wanted to let you know, I hope you guys are not watching YouTube in 2 weeks on Thursday morning, because that is obviously Thanksgiving. So wanted to prep you guys to let you know we will also not be joining YouTube on that day, but we will get back in action on the following Thursday, which would be December 4th. Okay, so with that knowledge, I want to go ahead and jump into my section of our profitability masterclass today. But I want to hit on two final things before we do. First, if you have any questions for myself or my co-host today, I really want to go ahead and encourage you guys. We planned on keeping the last 10 to 15 minutes completely open for you. So please go ahead and drop those in the live chat. Even if it's not 100% related to exactly what we're going over today, if you have any questions about profit margins, if you have any questions about pricing, about free shipping, whether or not you should offer it, any of those things, go ahead and drop those in the live chat for me, and then either myself or Adam will graciously answer them for you when we get to the end. If you are not able to catch this live and you are watching the replay of this video, any questions you have, go ahead and pop them in the comments of the video itself. Okay. Last up, before we dive into the actual masterclass, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys who we will be speaking to today. So we just recently, I believe, around 2 to 3 weeks ago, just got partnered with this awesome company that is all about making you guys more money and trying to make it as easy as possible and as streamlined as possible to know exactly where each of your dollars are going at any given time. And it's also a little app or a little platform that allows you the ability to see, should I go up? Should I go down? Should I place this discount here? Should I increase my pricing? It's all a one-stop shop for you. So I wanted to let you know, if you guys do have an EverBee store, you can actually find them right here in the app market. All you have to do is go to apps over here on the left-hand side, then go to app market, and then you're going to find Pentane. That is who we are going to be speaking with today, the owner and creator of this. And then you can just click install and see everything they have open for you. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the actual training. Like I mentioned, if you have any questions while we're going through it, drop it in the live chat, and I'm going to be favoriting them throughout our conversation today so we can hit it at the end. So first thing I want to talk about is the EverBee Etsy Calculator. So this is something that obviously we have inside Etsy, but it's also something that can be used for EverBee Store as well. But you just want to be mindful of the profit margins and mindful of the fee difference. So obviously on Etsy, there is a 20-cent listing fee for everything you do. So let's just say if you did 100 listings, oh no, I can't do math, so I got to pull it up. If you'll do 100 listings, that's around $20 that you're going to have to spend to even get the listing live. And you're also going to have to spend that 20-cent listing fee every time it renews or every time you make a sale, because they have to renew it after it makes a sale. So that's the difference here, obviously, compared to EverBee Store, where you can launch as many products and as many listings as you want, and we're never going to charge you for any of them. So keeping that in mind, that is something you will have to incur if you're on Etsy versus EverBee Store. And then you're also going to have, I believe it is around 9% plus 25 cents. It's a weird number. So we're going to go over this in a second about how to break that profit down. But keeping in mind that you're going to have the 20-cent listing fee and the 9%, which is 6%, 6.25%, whatever it is, for transaction fees, and 3% for processing fees. So keeping in mind we're around that 9% that you're going to have to incur every single time you sell something on Etsy, because that marketplace is going to take those fees from you. Comparatively to EverBee Store, you wouldn't have something like that. So just being mindful whenever you are using the EverBee calculator that we will be able to take those out. And also, I really recommend anytime you're thinking about listing a new product, so let's say you're a print-on-demand seller, if you're a handmade seller, whatever it is, and you're thinking about listing a new product that you maybe haven't used before, I always like to use the EverBee Etsy calculator, because it will show me whether or not I should list this, whether or not I should maybe add a little bit more value proposition, which we're going to get to in just a little while, or if I should maybe think about adding some variations to it or curating a bundle of sorts so that I can bring that average order value a little bit higher. So I want to show you guys exactly what I mean really quick on the EverBee calculator. So when you're in Etsy, or by the way, this can be done at everbee.io. So if you just log into your EverBee account, this will also be something that you can click on. But if you're in Etsy and you come over here, you can always come down to the profit calculator on the left-hand side and start putting in your information. Or something else I wanted to quickly show you guys is you can also, really quick, it's not working for me. Let's go ahead and click on this one just so you guys can see it firsthand. Let's see, it's loading. All right, so you can also at the very top right here of this particular item, it's right above the photos. You're also going to have listing details right here, which can also open the Etsy calculator with this little percentage at the top. So the Etsy calculator is going to be really beneficial if you're trying to figure out what your competitors potentially might be doing a profit on, or of course, if you want to do something comparable to them, what could you do and still come away with a good profit? So let's just use this as an example. It's not looking good because it looks like this is a, what is this, a magic reindeer food personalized something or other. And it looks like they're listing it at $4.50, so $4.50. The cost of item, I don't know if this is accurate because this is just something that they might have put in. Cost of item being $180, shipping cost per order being $4.50, but they don't have a shipping price. So let's just say, is this a digital product? Let me double check. It's not a digital product. That's surprising. All right, so let's just say that their shipping is also 450. So they're, net on that. That's at a net zero. And then let's say they're not doing any discounts. So we're at 0% here. So right now, our total revenue that we might be incurring would be 450 plus 450. However, we also have some Etsy listing fees, as you can see here. These are all going to be broken down for you if you're doing this here on Etsy. And then we're also going to have the cost of the item. So we call this COGS in e-commerce, so cost of goods sold. And then we also have the shipping cost for the order, bringing us down to this number right here at a minus $7.64. And then that is bringing us to a net profit of only $1.36. So thinking about this, if this was something that maybe you were interested in potentially offering to your people, or maybe bettering, making a product, something like this that's a little better, let's say this was a digital product and there was no shipping. So we could obviously remove this, we could remove this, and we could also remove this. They're going to have an exceptional profit margin because they're obviously just making it once and never really having to touch it again, and it's just going to sell over and over again. And then maybe we put a little bit of ad spend behind it, and that's what's going to be cutting into the profit margin. But the item is just by itself. It doesn't need to be shipped. It doesn't need any hours to actually build it out. So that's something that we don't have to worry about digitally. So let's say you wanted to make this yourself and you wanted to elevate it. Then what I would recommend doing is coming in here and thinking about how you can turn this item. Let's just go back to what it was, this little like reindeer thing. Let's say you actually send this out and you're building the actual product yourself. That means you obviously are making a higher perceived value item, which means we obviously can charge more as well. So that is kind of what I like to utilize the EverBee Etsy Calculator for. And it does not, again, like I mentioned, have to be strictly for Etsy, okay? Moving on to the listing profit calculator. So this is something that I personally built. It's super boring. There's nothing crazy about it, but it's something that I use with all of my team members, especially those who are doing print on demand. And I wanted to let you guys know this is a little teaser to what you guys can expect in a Black Friday bonus. So we have, I want to say like 12 or 15 of these kinds of things that are going to help you guys on your journey. So if you do not want to utilize the EverBee Etsy Calculator and you want to use something that's a little bit more like right there in your face, you can build upon it. You can see things from past days instead of it always just being right there in front of you on Etsy itself. The listing profit calculator, including a print on demand profit calculator. This spreadsheet is going to be given to you in our Black Friday bonus. So like I said, make sure you are in our Facebook group so you can be the first to get on that VIP list and then the first to know when it happens. The other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly today before I pass the torch over to my friend Adam is how do we get higher margins? And the best answer for my side of it is to think about higher prices. So if you can get higher prices out there, theoretically speaking, you're going to have higher margins simply because you're offering obviously something a little bit more expensive. And I've gotten this so many times from you guys, like, how could I possibly do something higher because everyone is doing like a loss leader strategy, or they're charging much less just to get the views, especially if you're on Etsy. That's going to be a really, really good case for building an EverBee store, first of all, or even just building something like me, like when I sell things on social media, whatever you want to do that is off of a marketplace where you don't have so many millions of people competing with you for the same space. So that's a really good case for that, first of all. But the other case is let's say we are on Etsy. How do we increase those prices without changing the product itself? The first thing I want to talk about is I always say emotion over everything. So if we are thinking about how to make something more valuable to someone, how to make something more sexy to someone, it's always really going to be about the emotional appeal. So how can you make it so emotional that someone is like, oh, I don't care how much that is. It speaks directly to me, or it's something that I absolutely want to gift to my sister, to my mom, to my brother, to my husband, because that is something that will make sense for them. That feels like it was generated directly for them. The next thing is communicating value. So no, that's also, by the way, we can communicate value through the emotion over everything as well. But I kind of wanted to let you guys know, because I've gotten that so many times. So many people are going to be like, oh, well, like, how do I do that? It's just a t-shirt. How do I give emotional appeal? It's just a mug. So I wanted to give you guys some ideas of exactly what that could look like. What I want you to think about doing in your descriptions, in your photos, in the ads that you might be launching, which my friend Adam's going to get through or go through that a little bit about how like ad copy could be persuasive in a way to boost that potential click through and also boost that potential price. But instead of saying things like how soft the shirt is, what type of wood the decor is made out of, or saying something like your sister will love this ornament. Those are 3 literal things that I have seen on Etsy descriptions when I was doing research on this for today's masterclass, and those are not convincing to me at all. I like a little bit more the your sister will love this ornament, because then they're at least talking to me, they're at least appealing to my sisterly nature. And I also kind of like, to know what type of wood the decor is made out of, simply because if it's cedar, it might last a little longer. Or if it's going to be an outdoor piece, it might need to be weatherproof or whatever it is. Like those kinds of things, sure, they're interesting. They help me make my final yes decision, but they're not helping me want to click through. They're not helping me connect to what you're doing. So what I like to do instead is start saying things like the crew neck was designed for people who want their style to start the conversation for them. So this could be political. This could be hobby based. So let's just say it's you are focused on the reading niche or the book talk niche or whatever it is. So something that makes sense for those people, when those people, your tribe, while you're out there in public, see your shirt and they're gonna be like, oh my God, I love that book. Or, oh my God, that was such a good one. What'd you feel about this part? Whatever. And that is going to speak to our human desire for connection. I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you guys have not thought about doing this before, or maybe have never even heard of this, look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's Maslow, MASLOW, hierarchy of needs. And this is going to show you, like, as humans, we need these certain things like love and connection, like status, like self-identification. It's going to break all of these different things down for you that humans literally need to survive or be able to make a good community and feel like they belong to a community. And if you can take those Maslow's hierarchy of needs and apply them to the products that you are selling, you can literally use ChatGPT to do this, by the way. Like, I have a crew neck and it has this design on it. Here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How do I connect the two? And then you can build really, really dang good copy. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, talking about the home decor. This is the piece that guests always ask about, the one that makes your home feel curated, intentional, and you. So this is speaking to our status. So we, as humans, for whatever reason, we crave to feel a status of some sort. So if your friends come in and they're like, oh my God, where'd you get this from? Or whatever the case may be, and they're kind of praising you for your choice to do this, that is what is making them feel like they have that status level. So if you could do the same thing through your copy to get them intrigued and to know that that could, quote unquote, increase their status, again, that is one of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The third one, we're talking about the ornament for your sister, right? So the kind of ornament that she'll keep up even after Christmas because blank. I just put it holds a memory for this one. And this is about self-actualization or self-identifying, or it also could go back to the love and belonging and connection. For example, my mom bought me an ornament this is a while ago now, but back in 2020, when me and my husband first got married, and it says first Christmas married. And I had that ornament up for like 2 years after the fact, simply because it was a really cute picture of us on our wedding day. So thinking about how you can really speak to them, and again, just use ChatGPT if you need to be able to convert this to a more emotional, more value proposition, or a higher value proposition for each of these individual people. The last thing I want to talk about today really quickly before I pass this over to my friend Adam is just thinking about some adjustments that can be made for each 3 of you. So I know I have my handmade sellers here. I know I have my POD sellers here. I know I have my digital creators here. So how can we go from one thing to another as it relates to products to be able to bring those prices a little bit higher? The first thing that I was thinking about for handmaids is I kind of looked up just like Christmas decor. or Christmas signs. And this one's 1 month old. As you can see, it's not doing too hot. It is in 6 cards, but really no sales as of now. And it just says our cheeks are nice and rosy and comfy, cozy are we. So we know that that is a line from obviously a famous Christmas song. So what if instead of doing this, we moved to something like this instead? And don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily love this design per se, but what I love is it says, welcome to Christmas at the Nelson home. And what I also love is, let's look at the difference in pricing. So this is 18 plus, of course, there will be a little bit of a variability because of obviously what they're offering and how big it is. But then this one starts at $24.50, and you can see $35 without the discount. And I truly believe it is, and I also truly believe the way the sales are moving, it's simply because this is a personalized item, and it's also a bestseller on Etsy. So yes, this is a little bit older. It's obviously 13 months, but just trying to think about, if I do something of this nature, let's say you want to make something like this, how do we make it a little bit more personalized? So the Nelson's cheeks are nice and cozy and comfy, are we? Whatever it is. So thinking about how to move it into a more personalized direction, or again, just building that value and emotion element. Next up, for digital adjustments. Again, instead of just a generic option like this, it's only been alive for a month, so I'm giving them a little bit of grace, but it was bought 7 times, it looks like, over the past 24 hours, but it really is just a generic, it's cute, don't get me wrong, it's funny, but it's just kind of a generic gingerbread for the bathroom, right? What if we did this instead? These are going off the absolute shelves right now. Like, these custom newspaper designs are doing so well in so many different niches. Birthday, graduation, wedding, baby shower, obviously also even the holidays. And no, I'm not saying go list this right now if you're a digital creator, because obviously we're a little bit past the holiday season, but just giving you some ideas of how we could adjust things a little bit as a digital creator by being able to just add that level of personalization. Obviously this is 2 years old, but you can see they've made over 942 sales. So if I just do 942 off of their sales discounted rate at $483, we are looking at around $4,500 that they have made simply from this one listing. Okay. Last up is our profitability for print on demand. So not thinking about more of the generic designs and such, but thinking about the product that you're choosing. Instead of your standard crew neck, your t-shirt, your mug, etc., I want you to go for higher perceived value products and things that not everyone is just a copy of a copy of a copy, especially if you are on a place like Etsy that is just so saturated and so competitive. So here's a quick example of something that Printify has had for a couple of years now. They're wall calendars that are blank that you get to edit yourself. And again, if you can make them personalized, it's even better. So you can see this is currently $7.58, and they are selling this at a discounted rate of around $23.90. Of course, it goes up based on size and finish. So when we take $23.90 minus the $7.58, we're coming here at around the $16.32 for the sale itself. Again, thinking about minusing our Etsy fees or subtracting our Etsy fees, which is around $2.15. And then that is getting us to $14.17 per profit, for profit. Keeping in mind also, though, this is going to be a custom option. So if you will have to think about your time in this, but if you can make it as easy as possible to just drag and drop some custom photos, you have the ability to make this more expensive overall. Last up that I wanted to show you real quick is something that I don't know if you guys are aware of, but I'm glad that you are still here on this live chat, because this is something that is super huge that just happened around 2 weeks ago. We have a video going live about it on Tuesday, but jewelry and personalized engraved jewelry is now available on Printify in multiple different ways. So they have bar necklaces, they have 2 to 3 different bracelets, they have a cuff bracelet, heart necklaces, circle necklaces, etc. So highly recommend going into your Printify catalog, typing in jewelry, and you'll see all of the new ones available. These are brand new, they're just launched, and you guys are probably one of the first people to know about it, except for everyone that just logged into Printify itself. So I definitely recommend checking those out because those are always going to be higher profit, simply because jewelry is just higher just price in general. But if we can change them to make them personalized, like you'll see here, it says love you forever in someone's handwriting. That is absolutely a design that you can upload into Printify. Okay, guys, so that is all I have today. I hope all of that makes sense. I hope you guys are getting your juices flowing about how you could possibly do this in your own shops, whether it be EverBee Store or Etsy. Now what I want to do is spend the rest of our time together today learning from one of the best in this space. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my friend Adam real quick, and I want to kind of get to know him a little bit, but then also learn directly from him. Hi, Adam.
Good morning. Thanks for
Hi,
having me. Happy to be here.
Good. Sorry I left you in the waiting room for so long. How you doing this morning?
Perfect. Your intro was fantastic. I wanted to jump in like 38 times. It was great.
I hope you were taking notes the whole time then.
I literally was. I have a whole page full of notes.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, Adam, this is the first time that, we've been together on this channel. Obviously, we've spoken a few times over the past few weeks ourselves, but tell my team, like, who are you? Why was Pentane born? What does Pentane do? And kind of why should they care?
Yeah, I'll stick to the professional side of who I am. My experience as an e-commerce operator started with a company called Bottle Keeper. And Bottle Keeper, my cousin and I started in 2013. It kicked off really in 14. And in the first 3 years of that business, we did over 10 million in revenue with no employees and no investors, completely direct to consumer. And there were a lot of things that we did wrong, and there were a handful of things we did right that helped to do that. From there, we got up to over 60 million in revenue, got acquired by private equity in 2021. We were on Shark Tank when we were way too big to be in Shark Tank, which was awesome.
Wait, did you actually go?
Oh yeah.
I have to watch that episode. Shark Tank is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah, it was in 2018. It was season 10, episode 5 or 6.
Nice. Very cool.
It was a really fun experience, really good for the company. So from that experience, after we got acquired, I went to a couple of companies that I had invested in, my wife and I had invested in, and realized that they had a lot of the same challenges around how to operate really profitably. And that was, of all the things we surely did wrong at Bottle Keeper, operating profitably was something we figured out how to do early on and did really well. And much of that was built on math and systems that we created because I was the CEO of the business. And because we had no employees, I was also the one spending all the paid ads. I was managing the website. I was writing the emails. Like, I literally played every single role, and I needed answers to questions around how to do pricing, how to run a discount if we were going to do one, how to use and build an ad budget, and how did that ad budget need to perform to hit our profit metrics, what our goals were. And that's what we ran the company on. So that's really what Pentane is. I won't spend a huge amount of time just talking about Pentane. I'd rather get into the specifics and some of the early details on how to be profitable. I mean, as you're hearing this, know that this is what Pentane does. So, we can automate off of crazy spreadsheets and get away from all that stuff and just get the answers to the questions. But that's where we are today.
Sweet. Very cool. And I know you have a couple things you want to go through with us today. So do you want me to go ahead and just share your screen for that? Or is there anything that you want to talk about first before we tip into that?
No, we can share the screen. I'll put up the caveat that I want you, if something comes up that doesn't make sense or needs more clarification, like scream and yell, make it stop. Mm-hmm. It's really, really important. Let's just be real. Where all of the value in understanding how to operate a profitable business, it really sits in two parts of a company. It's in I'm going to say the F word, finance. That's scary to a lot of people. And I understand why. There's a lot of math and complexity. Much of it is completely unnecessary, but that's what lives on your profit and loss statement and on your tax stuff at the end of the year. Much of which, Leslie, you just covered in a lot of your calculators. Those are things that are going to come up in this presentation. And the other part is how we acquire customers. And if you're on Etsy, I think the expectation is that Etsy is acquiring those customers for you. And maybe that's true. And maybe it's not. The reality is you're also competing with a million other people trying to sell similar things. In your own store, like in EverBee Store, you have the ability to go and control that a lot more with paid ads and things like that. But again, there's also some complexity there. So the goal today is to try to simplify as much of that as we can, given the time that we have. So scream and yell if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I have I have the live chat up. So anything that you guys have, if that does happen, if you're like, I don't know what that means, raise your hand and we'll budge in.
Sweet. So profitability is a math problem. I know that that might oversimplify the complex, but it's absolutely true. At the end of the day, and Leslie, you just went through some of this. At the end of the day, what you take home, what you put into your personal bank account after a month of sales or a week of sales or a day of sales comes down to this very simple equation that you're looking at on the screen. Net profit equals happy dollars minus fixed expenses. And I'll explain what all this means. If I can get my slides to work. There we go. So the first thing we have to do is just start to understand the basic expenses that exist in a business. You do not need to have a deep, detailed, nuanced understanding of all these things. Like, let's just be really basic. There are, from an operating a business standpoint, which is different than how an accountant looks at this, there are three types of expenses. There are fixed expenses or operating expenses. These are if you have employees, this is the payroll, the health insurance, the office rent. These are things that we pay whether or not we make money. They are not attached to sales. There are variable or sales related expenses. These are the things that are attached to sales. These are those Etsy fees that you were talking about. This is the cost of goods sold that we're talking about. As we make more money, as we earn more revenue, this amount of expenses increases with that amount of revenue. So it's tied to sales. Does that make sense? And then we have paid media or advertising expenses. Now, your accountant will tell you, and your accountant is right, that those advertising expenses are sales related and technically variable, and they're right. But it's more helpful to put them in their own bucket because we need to think of those as fuel for the engine that is your business, not just as an expense on your profit and loss statement. Okay. So with that, all expenses don't impact the company the same way. The way your fixed expenses impact the company are different than the way that those sales related expenses impact the company. And the fuel for that engine using paid ad dollars, the point, and what we'll get to in a minute and getting into some really simple math and structure, is that when we have our revenue minus those sales related expenses, what's left is called, technically speaking, is called contribution profit. I call those happy dollars because it's easier. And those are the dollars that make us happy. We want to make as many of those dollars as possible because it's those dollars that allow us to grow the business. It's those dollars that allow us to spend on paid advertising, to acquire more customers, to grow the business. It's those dollars that we pay ourselves with, because at the end of the day, your net profit is equal to those happy dollars minus your operating expenses. And if you have very low operating expenses, then more happy dollars equals more net profit, right? And then we are going to go through some specifics on the impact of discounting. Now, also, well, we'll just talk about discounting and the impact that it has on margins, and not to say that you shouldn't do it, but to say that you should understand the impact of the things before you go and do it, and the impact of, or how the performance in the business needs to change in order for those discounts to work and be additive to the business, and not taking away from the business. So happy dollars, as I just mentioned, is your revenue minus your sales related expenses. So if you have $10 in revenue and you have $6 in sales related expenses, cost of goods, shipping fees, Etsy fees, credit card fees, whatever it is, you have $4 left. It's those $4 that are happy dollars. And at the end of the day, our net profit is equal to those happy dollars minus our fixed expenses. So if, to make these numbers more realistic, if you have $1,000 in revenue and $600 in sales expenses, you have $400 left in happy dollars. If you have $200 in fixed expenses over that time, you paid a contract or something, you had a piece of creative made, whatever it is, the $200 you have left is your net profit. So that is the name of the game, is either, and we should be doing both of these at the same time, is to either increase the number of happy dollars that come into the business, the volume, or decrease the fixed expenses. We should be doing both. Increase happy dollars, keeping fixed expenses under control. That's where a lot of really early stage companies get in trouble, is they start earning revenue and think they need to hire people in order to sustain that revenue growth. And whether or not that's true is not for me to say, but they do it without understanding of the weight that that added payroll and expense adds to the company. And the business isn't set up to create enough of those happy dollars to actually pay for that expense, which is how we end up upside down. And then talking through that margin structure, which you spent some really good time on. I definitely have some thoughts and opinions talking about higher prices and versus higher volume, or both, and how to, a couple of different ways to approach and attack dealing with driving more of those happy dollars, which is really what margin comes from. So as an example for the impact of discounts, we know that your revenue minus your sales related expenses equals your happy dollars. And we also know that we don't want to break even on an order, right? The idea is we want to generate some profit, some extra happy dollars on that order that we can either reinvest into the next thing, we can use to pay to acquire customers, which is an important thing we're going to spend some time talking about. Or you can put in your bank account, like whatever your priorities are. So if we have revenue and we have sales expenses and we know what we want to have, an idea of what we want to make in order profit, and it's really important that you set this destination, that order profit destination. I would advise to not just arbitrarily let that end up at whatever it is. It's really important that you set your net profit goal, because if you set that goal, we can use that goal to work backwards and devise a strategy to achieve it. So as an example, if you have $30 in revenue and $15 in sales related expenses, and you've set your goal that you want to make $5 per order in profit, or technically happy dollars, but we'll call it profit. You have $10 left. That $10, looking in a situation, and I'll let you speak to this, Leslie, whether you want to look at this inside Etsy. I think it makes more sense to look at it outside Etsy in an EverBee situation where you can use paid advertising in Meta and Google and TikTok and some of these other places that have a much, much broader reach, and you control the customer, as opposed to, being in a system that system is showing your customer all your competitors, or a lot of your competitors. This $10 represents what you can afford to acquire a customer. In this case, there's a metric in e-commerce that's called return on ad spend. That is the amount of revenue that you drive divided by the amount of dollars that you spent to make that revenue. So with this math, we have a 3 return on ad spend. We made $30 on $10 in advertising spend to acquire that customer. If we do a 20% discount, the really important piece about discounting is that our costs don't change, with the maybe one teeny tiny exception of that 9% Etsy fee or a credit card fee. But that's the smallest piece of cost, generally speaking, in your transaction. So all you're doing with the discount is reducing the amount of money that the customer is paying you for that product. So it comes directly off the top. So that 20% discount off of $30 turns our revenue to $24 on basically the same amount of expense. And if we want to make the same amount we need to make the same amount of profit, again, because we've defined that goal. We need to acquire that customer for $4 instead of $10. That's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Like, let's just be very honest. That takes your return on ad spend to 6. A normal, I'll say typical, being very clear that there are barbells on here. There are wildly ranged differences in e-commerce businesses, but a really good return on ad spend at scale for a business is probably 2.5.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe they hit 3, like 3.5 during the holidays. 6 isn't going to happen. I mean, we hit 6 when we went on Shark Tank, but that didn't count. Like,
Right.
You don't get to plan and strategize and build a business around that. That's one of those lucky things that happens, that comes with time. So that 20% discount basically made it impossible to acquire this customer.
It's crazy to see too, I know how the numbers work personally, but when I see 30 down to 24, that just the $6 being the 20% is just crazy to me. Like, I know how to do the math, and I know that that's 20% if I were to add it all up. But just seeing it, like, right here instead of just like applying, because that's just so arbitrary and so normal for someone to be like, oh, like 10%, oh, 15%, oh, 20%. Like it's not 70, it's not a crazy amount. It's not 50, but when you actually see the numbers next to each other, that's $6 that you're not going to get that back, and you're still going to have to spend the exact same amount. So it's really, really cool to see this like firsthand.
Yeah. And the beauty from a pricing standpoint, and again, I understand in Etsy, there's probably more top line or up, like increasing price sensitivity, unless, to Leslie's point, you find ways to add value. Mm-hmm. Critically important piece. You have to find ways to add value. And part of the story and how you sell what you sell is a way to add value. If you have not read StoryBrand, my gosh, please. Oh, perfect.
I tell them about this book all the time. If y'all have not bought it, you're not listening to me the past 2 years.
I have been operating businesses. I've sold 2 of them for 20 years. I was in that consumer product company for 10. I just discovered this recently. I don't know how. I've been living under a rock. And it is the most impactful, tactical, how to sell your whatever you're selling thing I've ever read. And I listened to it on audiobook. I've watched some of their podcast stuff recently, and it is unbelievable.
Mine's pretty beat up, I will say, because actually this is something you can see there's just like, it's very, very beat up. But I do this book, Building a Story, I put it in the live chat in case you guys want to look it up. It's Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I read this book every January, and I've been doing it for about 4 years now. So highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do that. In the big scheme of things, what we're talking about with respect to margins, and when we say, let me just clarify what I mean when I say the word margins. Your margin is referred to technically as a ratio, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. So your margin is the amount of money that you make on each dollar that you earn. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at that. There's your gross margin, which is the amount that you make minus the amount that you spent on cost of goods and shipping and fulfilling to the customer and all of that. And then there's your contribution margin, or those happy dollars, which is those same expenses plus the additional expenses of paying to acquire a customer, the Etsy or credit card fees, all the other stuff related to getting that product to the customer. The more of those actual dollars that you can earn by driving higher average order value, which is a really important piece. If you're selling a product that only, that you are selling, using your example earlier, Leslie, that's $4.50, and it has $4.50 of shipping in it. So it's $9. And then there's, Etsy fees, there's the cost to make it fees. And at the end of that, you have $1.50 left. Maybe you need to sell, you need to create the structure and the value to sell 4 of those to a customer. Mm. And again, like the reality is, in that $9.50, that $9, if you increase your prices by 50 cents from $4.50 to $5, that additional 50 cents goes directly to that $1.50. It increases your net profit on that order by 33%. Takes your net profit from $1.50 on that order to $2 on that order. So it's playing with pricing and testing pricing and being really, really careful about discounts is absolutely critical to maintaining your margins, so that you can build a thing that has the ability and the kind of structure to scale. Mm-hmm. And with that, with those higher margin dollars that are being earned, more happy dollars equals more dollars that you can use to invest in advertising. Because if we remember that split, if you want to make $5 on the order and you sell it for 30, you have $10 to acquire a customer. If that same order you can sell for 40, now you have $20 to acquire a customer. You can acquire a lot more customers. So it's all about creating the structure so that you have that extra space in the revenue model in the business to go and be able to acquire. This is how you grow a business online. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to generate those additional dollars to be able to reinvest in acquiring more customers online, which is how we end up with more revenue. And more, what I should have put in here is a big asterisk, more profitable revenue. Right. Because it shouldn't just be about more revenue. It has to be profitable revenue, or it doesn't mean anything.
Right. Because according to all of these, it's going just basically right back into business if it's not profitable.
Yeah, I mean, it literally, it just vaporizes. It's funny money at that point. It's just a hobby.
Yeah. Not happy money, funny money.
No, it's not. Those aren't happy dollars. So I'll make this the last slide so we can go to questions. But in the big scheme, when you have that extra space, that extra margin, you can use paid ads literally as fuel. And we do this in Pentane. You can, because we understand the finance side of the business, you don't have to. The system understands that. And because we understand the math required to be able to build ad budgets and be able to tell you how they need to perform, we can look at the paid advertising purely as fuel and not just as an expense that we're afraid to spend, because we see what it needs to do. We see the impact of increasing prices, the impact of discounts, the impact of hiring a person, if that's the thing that you're considering, the impact of tariffs, if that's the thing that impacts your business. These are all levers that you can pull and see how they impact your ability to be profitable. But the key there is to get to the point where we can look at paid advertising as fuel for the engine. We just need to understand how the engine works first. Mm-hmm. And that's how we unlock growth. That's where growth comes from. And we see this happen quite frequently. It's really important that you have, whether you're doing this in spreadsheets or in Pentane or wherever, it doesn't matter. You just need to be doing it somewhere. You need to have clarity that the efforts that you're doing are adding those happy dollars to the business. We want to see that it's not going to happen on day one. It can take some time for the things to figure out. You're going to have to test. You're going to and play around and experiment and do all the things that we have to do as entrepreneurs, as e-commerce operators. But you want to be able to see that over time, the number of those happy dollars that are coming into the business is growing over time. That means it's working. If it's decreasing over time, the business is operating on borrowed time. It is literally dying a slow death. Like, I could not be, I'm more like blunt and clear. If you're losing those contribution profit dollars, those happy dollars over time, your business is dying. You just don't know it. So it's really important that you know it. So let's make sure that we have the systems and things in place so that we know that that's happening when it's happening, and we can, operate and adjust accordingly.
I love that. And I want to ask you guys real quick, because actually I want to ask you first, Adam, and then I have a question for the team. A lot of people are probably thinking right now, I don't see a lot of questions coming in from the live chat. So I don't know if this is maybe a little bit deeper than we maybe even needed to go. I'm not sure. I want you guys to make sure that you can feel safe to ask questions, though. No question is dumb. No question is like too low level, too high level. I want to hear from you guys. But immediately where my head went when we're going over this paid advertising fuels growth is most of the people that are going to be watching this today, or in the future, if you guys are watching the replay, are experiencing Etsy ads only. So they haven't gotten into the Meta Facebook, Meta, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. space yet, Google, whatever. So how can they figure out that these things are doing well with Etsy ads themselves? Because I don't know if you've ever done it yourself, Adam, but there is very, very little that Etsy gives them on the back end. Obviously, with meta ads, we can go really, really, really deep and figure out all of this stuff. So for Etsy ads, if you just had like one or two tips for them that they need to be on the lookout for when we're thinking about paying attention and iterating, what would that look like? Just kind of baseline.
So let me think of simplifying this. I mean, what you're referring to is attribution, and it's difficult. It was difficult in 2015 to get clear attribution, which is when you spend $1, getting a clear understanding of when that dollar returns $3, where that $3 came from. That's called, you're attributing that advertising dollar back to the revenue that was earned. It was hard 10 years ago. Now it's extremely hard because Apple blocks all the pixels on our phones and computers and everything. There's this concept in marketing that's called, or in paid advertising, called incrementality. What that means is that when you spend $1, you want to be able to watch how your revenue incrementally increases, which is hard to do in a place where you don't get any data. So I mean,
make decisions.
It sounds, this is a little bit, sounds a little bit like kind of driving a car with a pillowcase on your head. I don't honestly know. I mean, within Meta and the other platforms, you do get a lot more data, and in your own, for example, in our Shopify site at Bottle Keeper, the best way that we found to get that clear attribution of how did this customer discover us was in a post-purchase survey that was built onto the checkout page.
Nice.
And that works incredibly well when you have just a little bit of volume coming through it, because like literally 8 out of 10 people that check out will click the button, and they randomize. So it's not like they're all just clicking the top one. So, but you can't do that on Etsy, I assume. So that's a really another big argument towards being able to kind of control your own destiny and being in your own system. Because you have a lot more flexibility, over time with being able to do those sorts of things.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions that just came in, so I'm excited I asked that question because I think it sparked a few as well. If we were to move on from Etsy ads, where would we go to ads? Pinterest, Google, etc. My response to this is I think it depends on the product. Because there are going to be some products that are going to do, or some spaces, industries, whatever, that are going to do really, really well with Google search. So if you have a Google ad, it usually is just like a big bold statement and then a 150 or so character statement under that. You can do display ads on Google as well. Those are the visual ones, but those are going to be more so like Pentane, for example. Great example. If I need to learn, like if I type into Google, how do I calculate my profit in my business? Pentane better pop up. Or how can I move from Etsy to build my own website? EverBee Store better pop up. So those are kind of going to be those industries, those niches that are going to make a lot of sense for Google Ads. If your product or your products or whatever is visually stimulating, so trying to see if I have anything near me. Let's just use, actually, this is actually a really good example. So my water bottle tracks how much water, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it tracks how much water I've drank on my goal. Anytime I click that button, and as I drink, the number will go up. So right now I'm 22%. If I were to drink a little bit, it would be like, congrats, you're at 23, 24, whatever. And then at the end of the day, if I hit my 100 ounces, a little celebration thing comes on. It's very good for dopamine if you want to look it up. But this is something that would do really, really easily well with Meta ads, TikTok ads, YouTube ads, because it's visually stimulating. It's something that you can show the process of. So those video things are going to do well. And then if it's like a static ad, which is going to be obviously static or carousel, it's going to be your standard, just like 1x1 or 4x3 image. Those are going to do well for both types of industries. So that's my feedback on that. Pinterest obviously can do all three of those. So that's a really, really good one because it is a shopping platform and it is a search-based platform. So that's going to be a really good one if you're trying to get off of Etsy ads. But Adam, do you have anything to piggyback on that, or where you would send them if they're thinking about going into something off of Etsy?
No, I think all of that is really good guidance. I mean, the platforms do different things and serve different purposes, like in a full marketing funnel. I would also say don't overcomplicate it. Like, start simple. You don't need to go. It's important actually that you don't go and just say, I'm going to go all in on Meta and put everything, throw all your chips on the table. Like, you start small, you go and you experiment. You have to figure out what the creative is. If you haven't done it within your brand, you don't know the answer to that question, and it's okay. We all have to start somewhere. So you just start. The good thing about the platforms is that they've evolved so much that they're really pretty self-service. But to be clear, there are a lot of steps in between. In marketing, we talk about these things called marketing funnels, where it's like you get people in the top of the funnel and you squeeze them down through the funnel, and what comes out at the very bottom are the people that end up buying your product, like on your checkout page on your website. And those different platforms can serve different purposes in that marketing funnel, but I wouldn't overcomplicate it. You also need to keep in mind that it's not just about those platforms. It's about the continuity of your brand and story that happens from what they see on the platform through your website, through everything. Like, your website as a whole. I see a comment in here from someone, I think Brandon, making a comment about how Meta seems to be with a high click-through rate, or a good cost per click, and that's all great, but it doesn't seem to be purchasing. Two questions. One, are you looking at attribution within the Meta platform and it's saying there isn't any? Because Meta doesn't know. They're making that up. Let's be clear. And two, if all of that has happened and people are not converting on the website, that's a website problem. It's either, someone that asked a good question here, it's either a top of funnel problem, you're getting the wrong people to click on the things, so you need to do some more experimenting, or it's a website problem. Something is broken. It's like you have a boat sitting on a lake and it's got holes in it. So right now it's taking on water, and you're just like putting things in the boat, but it's just going through the boat. So we got to do things to plug those holes in the boat. And that boat is right now, it sounds maybe like the website could be a place to spend some time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of you guys know that I am a creator, kind of like first and foremost. So brands pay me to create content for their top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel ads. So I am the creatives, if you will. But then if something doesn't happen on the back end, they usually don't come yelling at me that like the video wasn't good enough, because their CTR and their CPC was so high, or the cost per click was low, excuse me, the CTR was high. So CTR, in case you guys were wondering, is click-through rate. So that means that you can usually, the same way that we would kind of audit an Etsy listing, if the click-through rate on an Etsy listing is good, but there are no sales, you guys should know what that means. We've talked about it ad nauseum. That means that the thumbnail was really, really good on the search page. And that means that the price was sexy on the search page. And then maybe also a little bit of free shipping, a little bit of your ratings, your star reviews, whatever. So all of those things were working in your favor. Then we get into the website, AKA the Etsy listing, they fall off. Why? It's because the description did not convince them. The photos did not convince them. The variations were not what they were looking for. Maybe the reviews were detracting them. They were saying, no, don't buy this, whatever it is. So I think that should answer your question a little bit, Brandy, excuse me, that just the creatives seem to be working. So if you're getting a low CPC and you're getting a high click-through rate, that usually means something is working in the front end and something is broken on the back end. So I think that I just kind of wanted to put that in perspective too, that it doesn't just have to be like the website page, the landing page, whatever it is, the product page itself. We could also relate it to how we look at Etsy listings. And if you can just take that same knowledge that we've gone over 1,000 times on this channel and apply it to paid ads, Meta, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever it is, and then going to a landing page or a product page or a home page, wherever you're sending people, we can apply that same knowledge, that same mentality, that same mental structure from an Etsy listing to a landing page as well. Does that all make sense? Okay, so another one real quick that I got, this isn't a question, but it's something that I do want to hit on real fast, and I want to hit it from both places. So Adam, I'm going to ask you for off of Etsy, and then I'm going to hit on it on Etsy. So someone said, and I get this often, so I'm gonna be a little blunt and probably tough love here, but I tried paid advertising and it didn't work for me. I only got one sale. And that's the end of the statement. So what I want to say here is, first and foremost, again, thinking about Etsy only. We're going to go off Etsy in a second as well from Adam's response, but from Etsy only, we never want to put any money behind something that isn't optimized. And kind of going back to what Adam said a second ago is like, once we do a little bit of that experimentation, we can see that the creatives potentially are working, the thumbnails are working, whatever, but then something is broken on the back end. So we do need to put a little bit behind it simply to see if things are working in the actual product page itself. But if you are not 100% confident that your listing is as good as it can be without experimentation, I do not recommend putting any money behind it. And what I mean by that is, if you have 2 photos, you didn't use a video, you're not really focused on the strategic keywords that you want to use for this. It's a product that is so ridiculously competitive and your pricing is way off. You're higher than all of the people that are also selling this. That is not an optimized listing. So we don't want to put money behind it. On the other side, on the flip side is, let's say you did all of those things, you did them all right, and you took all of our advice here from the EverBee channel, you know exactly what you want to do with this. Now it's time to throw some money behind it so that we can experiment to see which part is working or not working. So is it the thumbnail is bringing people in, so you're going to have that high CTR, but there's no conversions? Or are people adding this to favorites, but they're not buying yet? Cool. How do we bring email marketing into it to bring them back in? Whatever it is, I recommend having your listing as optimized as possible first before you ever put dollars behind it, or else that will be the statement that you continue to say. But if you believe that it is fully optimized, then we can put some money behind it just to start doing that experimentation that Adam mentioned.
Yeah, it's
So
basically the same. Yeah, the same on your own website.
Yeah.
You have there, we get back to the leaky boat. We got to make sure that the holes in the boat are, as they're never going to be completely plugged. Let's be clear. Mm-hmm. It's a thing that you work on for the entirety of the life of your business. Mm-hmm. But as it gets better, that top of funnel activity and spending a little bit of money on paid ads will work better. Mm-hmm. But there's an important piece in here. 10 years ago, you could just spend money on Facebook and it would return you money. That's not the way that it works today. It just isn't. There are too many advertisers. There are the same amount of eyeballs. If you remember your economics class in high school, supply and demand, we have the same amount of supply, but the amount of supply has decreased, but we have the same amount of demand. Like the prices to get those eyeballs are just more expensive. Mm-hmm. So a thing to do and try and test is creating organic content on socials, not paid, but on social channels about the things that you're doing and telling your story and the things that you're selling with the imagery. And the over time, you will figure out, this is not years over time. This is weeks, maybe a month or two over time. You will figure out the things that more resonate with your audience, and the things that resonate well with your audience, put money behind those things. Right. Like the things that do well, those are the things that are worth going and dumping a little bit of like fuel on that fire to get more exposure on that thing that is resonating with your audience. So without just straight testing it, there is a time and a place to do that as well. But
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually one of my biggest ad strategies for my own business. Is I do all of the organic, and then I do have an ads manager that runs the rest of it. But what we'll do on a monthly basis is pull out like 4 to 6 high performing organic pieces. And then we're actually going to put money behind those to just boost that, to get that out even further. So that's paid ads in itself. But then we also, on the other side, is like, what was the message? What was the narrative? How was the hook delivered, whatever it is, and then we'll just replicate that a bunch of times. And then now she has a bunch of creatives that kind of don't need experimenting, because the experimenting already took place organically. So great point. Cool. Okay, well, we only have one last question, it looks like, for today. Again, it's a little bit focused on Etsy, but I do want to get your feedback here as well, Adam. So POD Etsy, so print on demand. I know I'm entering a saturated market. Is there a minimum number of listings that you would recommend building before putting up an ad to bring attention to more than the advertised product? To be honest with you, Karina, this is completely contingent on what you are selling. I can't give you an exact number or anything. I don't think there even is an exact number. But I've seen people, including myself, that had 10 to 15 listings, and they were high value prop. They were either emotionally intriguing, or it was something like, for me, where I like teach people how to make money online. Like that's something that's obviously going to take them out of some of those Maslow's hierarchy of needs bad things. Like it's going to give them that self-actualization, going to give them that status, whatever it may be. So it depends on what you're selling, because I've been able to have 14 listings in an Etsy shop and make thousands on a monthly basis with or without ads. But I've also seen other side of it where it's 1,000 more generic POD items in a store that puts a lot of money into ads, and they make a handful of sales a month. So I don't think there's an exact number, but if you know that you're already entering a saturated market, what I highly recommend doing is going back to the beginning of this presentation or this kind of masterclass today, and figuring out, how can I take the bare minimum of what everyone else is doing, a saturated market, copy of a copy. How do I elevate that? How do I bundle it? How do I increase my average order value per person? How do I make it more valuable in general, more emotionally appealing, whatever it is. So I would start all of that research first before I ever put any money behind it. And then honestly, you could, once you do that research, once you confirm or deny the different, maybe narratives that you're telling yourself right now, and then once you make the listings optimized as possible, like we talked about a second ago, you can literally start putting advertising dollars immediately behind it. Because the way paid ads works, especially on Etsy and also everywhere else, I guess for that matter, is they're not sending paid ads to your shop. They're sending it to that particular listing that you either cut on or off. So you don't have to have 1,000 things in your shop in order for that one listing to do well in paid ads. Any thoughts on that, Adam, outside of Etsy?
Nope.
Sounds good.
I started a company with one product in one color and it worked great. I was on a call yesterday with a new Pentane client that is a year into a company and they have 1,000 SKUs. So there's not a right or wrong way to do it. It entirely depends on your situation and what you're trying to accomplish and what you're selling.
Yeah, exactly. And Brandy just mentioned that one of our friends, Chris Heckman here, good friend of the channel, they say 100 listings minimum. And I think that is totally applicable to certain spaces. So that's our little caveat to just making sure whenever you're selling that you're doing that research first. And if it needs 100, cool. If it needs, obviously, like what Adam was able to do, 1, cool. Needs mine, what I was able to do, 14, cool. Just really figuring out what that is in your space. And then how can you elevate it a little bit more to be able to put money behind it faster. Okay. My last thing that I want to say for today, I know we're a little bit over time, so I appreciate you guys staying with us a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I know it's very, very, very different than anything we've ever done on this channel, but because of everything we did talk about and because of the questions that we got, I am tempted to do a paid advertising masterclass of sorts as well. So showing you guys high performing videos, high performing static, high performing carousels, high performing copy, whatever it is from different niches. If that's something that you guys are interested in and you want to see that, whether it's, throughout the end of the year or maybe into early 2026, just give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know whether it's in the comments or the live chat. If you're interested in seeing all the stuff that me and Adam talked about today, sounds awesome. It sounds sexy, but like, how the hell do I do it? Drop this in the chat because I would love to build that for you guys. And I might even, if you're open to it, Adam, I might even bring you back to show those as well. So yes, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. I'm seeing some yes, please. Someone said, especially for EverBee Store. I completely agree. So just let me know. Give me one of these. Drop it in the comments if you're watching this on replay, because I really do think, I don't want to give you guys too much and overwhelm you, but I do think that could be something very, very beneficial. Someone said, here is my thumb. I love it. Okay, cool. So this sounds like something you guys are interested in. So I might be able to get Adam back one day, or I can do it, myself, and then maybe kind of have his input. But I think what we talked about today is just so important. And I want to give you guys the tools to do it. So with that said, looks like there's a lot of thumbs, a lot of yeses. So I think we're going to do that in the future. Thank you guys for giving me your quick and swift feedback on that. Thank you, Adam, for coming today and giving us your knowledge. I love that you were on Shark Tank. I will go be watching that now. I'll go watch that today with my husband. Make sure you watch the episode. What season was it again?
I was in season 10. I think it was 5 or 6.
Okay, season 10, episode 5 or 6. Go watch and see how Adam presented his company at the time to that. Go check out Pentane if you are, whether you're on Etsy, EverBee Store, does not matter to me. Just go check out all the different things that they have available for you guys to increase these dollars in your everyday business. And then, of course, guys, if you are on EverBee Store, make sure that you're going to the app market to go find his business over there now. So with that said, I will see you guys next Thursday with Jenny from the shop. Adam, before we close out, I usually like to ask, if you were to never speak to my community ever again, is there one last thing that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Doing anything is better than doing nothing. Amen. Whether that's finance related or marketing related, you learn from that experience. Even if it doesn't work, all of the education is in that failure.
Amen. I love that. Even showing up for this today, like that, most people are not going to spend their Thursday morning learning there, so I love that. So even just doing this today is progress for each of you. And I hope you all feel that. So with that said, thank you guys so much. I'm getting a lot of thank yous in the chat right now. So again, thank you, Adam, for being here today and sharing your knowledge with us. I'm really excited to hopefully be able to get back together with you soon and expand even further on this topic. But until then, we will see you guys next Thursday with Jenny from the shop. And please be on the lookout tomorrow for our Black Friday VIP list. I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.